Let's talk about hummus. Welcome back to Sprung On Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is writer and comedian Meredith Dietz. Meredith, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am very excited that you are here. Not only are you a very funny person, but your favorite food is one that I very much enjoy as well. So I've got to learn all about why hummus is your favorite food. Tell me about your relationship with it. Tell me all the things.
I think it's interesting because there's so many more people better suited to speak at it from a cultural connection or something to do with home life or ethnicity or anything. And I am none of that. I was a blank slate who I think discovered hummus in a dining hall when I was 18. And it just became an absolute comfort food immediately. I don't know. It crossed off everything in terms of like being quote unquote safe, which is like such bad language to use, but it's healthy. But it also, yeah, I think I associate it with like growing up and discovering my own palate. And like, I think my mom does love it, but I don't think of it as something that was being around when I was a child at all. And I feel it's just like, I just freaking put it on everything. I just love it. I actually am like, wow, I should have prepared a deeper answer.
No, I only need your honest answer. It's your favorite food, so only you can answer that the best. So this was in a dining hall. Do you have any idea if they made their own, or maybe I don't want to assume,
sure
but
not.
they bought it, yeah? Or do we know what brand perhaps it was, or?
It feels like it was not something they would have made. I
Okay.
think it's so interesting because now I'm remembering when I was filling out your questions that you sent ahead of time, I put other foods ahead of hummus as my favorite food until I asked my roommate. I was like, what do you think my favorite food is? And we put hummus as not because that's what I would choose as like my final meal or it's my best, but it is something that I
Oh,
realized I do eat it every day. And it has gotten to the point of being like water to me.
well, okay. So if that says anything, then yeah, I would think. Yeah. So maybe you didn't think of it superficially as a favorite. It has just become so intertwined into your life that it's just like
I think
necessity.
so. I think
Mm.
so. Like I just have never had a fridge that doesn't have it.
Okay, I think that's a pretty strong signal. Now, in your fridge, where are you getting it from? Do you have your go-to brands or go-to places? Do you make it yourself?
I wish I knew a go-to brand. I love when there's a chickpea chunk in there. Otherwise,
Ooh,
though, that Sabra, that is my go-to. I hope that's
yeah.
not problematic. Are they like,
No. I mean, little foreshadowing, we may or may not be talking about that brand in a
okay.
minute. But okay, so they do like a in the same vein, I guess, as like a peanut butter. Do they have a smooth and chunky version, or do they just by default have the chickpea pieces in there?
They don't. They are my go-to. It's all going to be the smooth. It's going to be the pine nut, crushed red
Uh-huh.
pepper, that style one. But I will get original, whatever the brand is, and I like to put different hot sauces in it.
Ooh la la, that's a nice spin. Any particular type of hot sauce?
Sriracha definitely is probably what's the smartest and makes the most sense. God, I have people who are going to come at me for this. I love Valentino in there, which is like
Okay.
a clash of flavor palettes. I know that it's wrong, but I don't want to be right.
Well, educate me. I'm not familiar. What would make people upset about that?
I think Valentino's a hot sauce that really goes best with pulling out flavors in like Mexican foods.
Okay.
And I do think sriracha is more complementary to a
Okay.
hummus, to
Okay.
something like a bland palate like a hummus. But I'm like, I don't care. I like Cholula in there. I don't give a hoot. I like
Listen,
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's going into your mouth. That's really
absolutely.
all that matters. What
I like
you think
slop.
tastes wonderful. Is that a dish you've created yourself, or just that's the
Like
adjective we're using?
both,
Okay.
absolutely both.
Oh, amazing.
When I make slop, I think slop for me is like I would not say what I'm doing is meal prep, but if I like on a Sunday I want to make a giant pot of something that I can get me through the week. It's rice, beans, tomatoes, corn, sometimes chicken if I'm feeling like really taking care of myself. And the thing is, I will add hummus to that when I eat it. And so
Ooh.
basically using hummus as like
Kind
Uh,
of like a
uh,
binder or
it's a
something.
binder, absolutely. This is
Wow.
vulnerable. This is vulnerable. I'm
Oh,
scared.
well, thank you for sharing all of that. I'll bill you at the end for our session.
Of
No,
course.
I want you to feel very comfortable with this whole, and it's crazy that you said it because when you said it, I was like, I wonder if Meredith means the same thing that I'm thinking about, but how could you? Because I don't know. This is a very specific thing to how I grew up, but my brother started calling in the same kind of a vein. My mom would do like, okay, do we have any like odds and ends of leftover
Hmm.
things and whatnot?
Yes.
Let me make it into a stew would be an interesting choice of words, but like in that same kind of vein, it would be, like ground up meat and some tomatoes and like this and that and whatever might happen to go into it. And he named it slop.
It
And
is
like,
slop.
yeah, and like I don't know whether my mom was like, "What?" But I mean, made it and then that is what it was called. So if at any time he was
I
like, "Mom,
love
I want
that.
slop," like that's what it was. So this is very cute that this is kind of like a maybe a more universal thing than I ever realized.
I think it really is a testament to how accurate a word slop is. Like whoever came up with the word knew exactly what they were doing. It's
Yeah.
something that people arrive at independently because that's what it is. It's slop.
And if that's even more of an indicator of how food travels as well
Hmm.
in general, I think this is very profound and deep. So this is great.
Honestly, slop is what my roommate probably would have said if I said, like, what's my favorite food? It's probably slop and hummus. Like, I think I've had different fixations on different foods and then had to overdo it and lose them. And it's one food that I've never, like, overdone to the point of, like, I think I overdid it with peanut butter.
Okay.
I loved it so much. And now it's like, I don't really have the taste for it these days, even though it was my go-to food forever, like a spoonful of
Mm.
peanut butter at all times. And then I kind of overdid it. And hummus, I've yet to get to that point. In 10 years it'll probably be like I ate enough hummus to last several lifetimes, but for now going strong.
Long live hummus. This is amazing. Well, to better understand and appreciate our food, we've got to know where it came from.
Let's do it.
Today, we're digging into the world of one of the most iconic Middle Eastern spreads of all time, hummus. But hummus isn't just a dip. It's a tale that spans millennia, empires, culinary ingenuity, and yes, some serious debates about who really gets to call it their own.
Mm.
To figure it all out, we're going from ancient Mesopotamia to the Whole Foods deli section. Let's start with the basics. What is hummus? In its most traditional form, it consists of just a few simple ingredients: cooked chickpeas, tahini, that's sesame paste, garlic, lemon juice, and olive oil. Blend it until it's smoother than a Sade album and you've got the base. And before we get too deep, you might be asking, wait, are chickpeas similar to garbanzo beans? Meredith, do you know?
I use them interchangeably.
And you would be right.
Okay, phew.
Chickpeas and garbanzo beans, they're the same thing. Chickpea comes from the Latin cacere, which is by way of French, while garbanzo is a Spanish name, likely with Basque roots. The term chickpea is more common in British English and academic writing, while garbanzo shows up more in American supermarkets and Spanish-influenced cooking. So whether you're blending them into hummus or throwing them into a salad, you're dealing with the same ancient protein-packed little legume. Now, each of these hummus ingredients has deep roots. Chickpeas, one of the oldest cultivated legumes in human history, dating back at least 7,000 to 9,000 years to the Fertile Crescent, particularly areas we now call southeastern Turkey and Syria. Now, you might be thinking, wait, there's like a 2,000-year difference in that range. What the heck? Yeah, well, the 2,000-year gap reflects the uncertainty and gradual nature of chickpea domestication. Archaeological evidence from different sites across the Fertile Crescent shows chickpeas were cultivated at varying times between that time frame, with differences due to carbon dating margins of error, regional variation, and the slow transition from wild to fully domesticated crops. But essentially, it was a long time ago. They've been found in Neolithic settlements, which means humans were boiling and mashing these babies back when people were still figuring out how to build a decent hut. Meredith, we'll find out more about the evolution of chickpea to hummus, but are there any other ingredients or singular food items that you can think of that are that much more elevated or made better when they're turned into a different product? Or are you just a purist and you like all of your ingredients au natural?
I think nothing has the simplicity of, because I mean, going that is like a magnificent transformation to make something cheese, but it's like a complicated process. The way that I could go in my kitchen and kind of make a makeshift hummus right now
Mm,
with the can of beans that I and like olive oil that I have on hand.
yeah.
Obviously, I don't have the tahini, but I think that's pretty singularly beautiful.
Okay, gold star for chickpea to hummus then.
Yay.
Well, tahini made from sesame seeds has its own backstory. Sesame was cultivated in Mesopotamia as far back as 2000 BCE. It was prized for its oil, and both the Assyrians and Babylonians believed it had medicinal and even magical properties. They used it to treat wounds, soothe inflammation, and ease digestion, often mixing it into salves or honey based tonics. But sesame also had spiritual clout. It played a role in temple rituals, anointing, and even protective spells against illness and evil. Think of it as the OG superfood, equal parts health elixir and holy oil. So when we talk about hummus, we're talking about an ancient culinary convergence. So when did these ingredients come together? The earliest known written recipe that resembles hummus with tahini appears in 13th century cookbooks from Cairo. One recipe is found in the Kitab Wasf al-Adama al-Mutada, a medieval Arabic cookbook, which includes a dish made with pureed chickpeas, vinegar, pickled lemons, herbs, spices, and oil. Not the exact mirror of the modern hummus we know, but the building blocks are right there. That said, these dishes were more likely served warm, and the concept of cold dips or spreads came a bit later. Meredith, warm hummus, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay? Have you
I
had it
think
before?
I don't think so, but everything about that just made me starving. So I feel like I'm
Oh,
pro.
okay. Amazing. Great. So, warm hummus, bring it on.
Bring it on.
The idea of combining chickpeas and tahini into a smooth, cold paste, the definitive modern hummus bi tahina, likely evolved during the Ottoman era empire, which controlled a large swath of the Middle East from the 14th century until the early 20th century. The dish became popular throughout the Levant, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan, as well as in Egypt. All these regions embraced hummus and added their own flair. So, who invented hummus? That all depends on who you ask. Israel, Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, they've all laid claim to being the original hummus homeland. In fact, the hummus debate got so intense that in the 2000s, Lebanon tried to sue Israel for marketing hummus as an Israeli dish. Yeah, there were actual court filings over chickpeas. This national pride even spawned the Great Hummus War of 2008, when Lebanon and Israel competed for the Guinness World Record for the largest plate of hummus. The record volleyed back and forth like a delicious game of ping pong until 2010, when Lebanon dropped a behemoth of hummus.
Yes.
Meredith, do you want to take a guess of how much this plate of hummus weighed?
Ooh, I'm awful with numbers. If you said the word behemoth, I'm gonna say hummus. I'm gonna say 300 pounds.
300 pounds. Okay, well, by Price is Right rules, you win. But this might just blow your mind. It's actually 10 tons, which is over 20,000 pounds of hummus.
By
Mhm.
Price is Right rules and pity. But wow, I'm always bad at that.
That's okay. I mean, this is impressive. 20,000. It was served in a satellite dish, and that's not a metaphor. It's literally what was used.
Go
Do-
Lebanon. That's awesome.
Does 20,000 pounds of hummus sound like a dream to you?
Sounds like it's on my grocery shopping list for this afternoon.
Okay, amazing. Perfect. I'm not sure what that'll cost you, but best of luck.
I'll get a discount.
Okay.
I'm going wholesale.
You're like, you know me, right? I'm the hummus person. And they'll be like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
good.
A little 5-figure discount. I'm just sneaking out a satellite dish.
20,000 pounds. God bless and good luck. Well, behind the hummus battles lies a deeper cultural truth. Hummus, like many ancient foods, has no singular origin. It's part of a shared regional culinary heritage, something called Levantine cuisine. The dish developed across cultures, not a single kitchen. Meredith, had you ever really associated hummus with maybe one particular area? Did you realize it was more of a regional thing?
I definitely did think of it as, like you talked about in the Fertile Crescent and the Middle East. I think it usually is marketed that way. I've definitely seen that, but I definitely shouldn't be the spokesperson for hummus because I have none of that. I'm just some white bitch from Pennsylvania who loves it for the pure reason of taste and no real emotional connection. But yeah, I definitely thought of it. I think whenever there's an option of like where to eat in New York, I'm usually going to try to go towards something that's Mediterranean or Middle Eastern for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You'll see it on different menus at different cultural places, and a lot of times very similar, tastes kind of the same, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It
Yeah.
crosses and spans those regions. I mean, unless of course one of them is putting in the chickpea chunks, your fave.
I love when you can tell that it's just fresh that way.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it be something? I hope nobody does this. They're buying it and then they're just mashing up a few and mixing it in and be like, they'll never know.
And here's big placebo. I'll never know.
Right.
That's totally fine by me.
As long as it tastes good. Yeah, you're on board. Well, fast forward to the late 20th century, and hummus begins its global domination. In the 1980s and 90s, hummus was still something you mostly found in Middle Eastern delis and home kitchens. But by the early 2000s, thanks to a combination of immigration, globalization, and the ever-growing health food movement, hummus exploded in popularity in Europe and North America. Now let's talk numbers for a second. I know not your favorite, but don't worry, we'll leave it to me.
Perfect.
According to market data from Statista and the USDA, hummus sales in the United States went from just a few $1 million in the early 2000s to over $1 billion by 2017. And if hummus had a household name, it'd probably be Sabra.
Sabra. For sure.
Founded in Israel and now co-owned by PepsiCo, Sabra became the Goliath.
I don't endorse Sabra.
You're like, maybe I'm on to a different brand. Well, don't worry, stay tuned. I'll give you some options.
Okay.
By the late 2000s, PepsiCo seemed to have that Midas touch, similar to the explosion and popularity of Cheetos from the History of Flamin' Hot Cheetos Sprung On Food episode, which you can watch on YouTube or available wherever you get your podcasts. At its peak, Sabra held over 60% of the American hummus market, and while that number has dipped to around 36 to 38% today, it's still the single biggest player in the game. Sabra even runs the world's largest hummus factory in Chesterfield County, Virginia, a chickpea-powered mega plant that churns out over, okay, we're going to play our guessing game again,
okay.
But you can guess however you want. Do you want to guess how many pounds of hummus they produce every month?
I mean, at least 6. You know?
At least 6 pounds every month?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Price is Right rules again. You win. Yes. It is 20 million pounds.
That's so crazy.
Or 10,000 tons, however you want to do it, of hummus.
So much hummus.
So much hummus. Yeah, I can just see it. They're in a huge vat. You can get your little swimmies, take a dip, bring a spoon.
Absolutely.
Sabra's success didn't just come from smooth texture and shelf appeal. It had big-time corporate muscle behind it and helped transform hummus from a niche Middle Eastern dip to a mainstream American snack staple. Today, other brands like Tribe, Hope Foods, and Cedars, who's also been rumored to white label their hummus to Trader Joe's, are the most prominent on supermarket shelves. And they've been spicing it up with flavors like roasted red pepper, caramelized onion, and even possibly sacrilegious chocolate.
Yeah, definitely seen that.
Yeah, have you ever tried it?
I don't think I have. I've definitely, the thing is, if I didn't put money on it and someone put it in front of me, I'd absolutely try it. I am not buying that myself.
Right.
I feel like I have a fear that it would taste really like artificial sweetener.
Okay.
If they had found a way to make it taste like the way dark chocolate kind of has bitterness, I could see that working. The thing is, I love like disgusting foods. I really do. But I mean, it is all making me think of like, no, ethical consumption, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I just got to start making my own. It would be more cost efficient if I just was blending chickpeas myself.
Yeah. Maybe you just make a huge amount of it, just shy of the 20,000 pounds. And you can make it however you want. So add those chickpea pieces in there. It'll be a dream.
Or if I see some at a farmer's market or anywhere, I can like support a local maker or something. That's what I should be looking into for sure.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so either the homemade or the local artisan.
Yes.
Stamp of approval for sure.
But yeah, you asked about the chocolate one. Have you tried it?
I have.
And
I don't like it.
what is it like?
It's like the texture of hummus, but just kind of like subtly chocolate flavored. And like that's not the user experience I'm looking for.
Oh, that's
I'm
like Nutella went bad.
Yeah, it's like Nutella in the texture that you absolutely don't want it in.
Yeah, that's
I
awful.
just it's I feel like if it's and it's not sweet enough that it feels desserty, and then people want you to like, or the companies who are making it want you to like dip stuff into it, and I'm like, that's not
Uh-uh.
making it better.
No.
It's There may be somebody, and if there's somebody out there listening or watching this right now, go ahead, build engagement and drop it in the comments that you disagree with me, and that's fine. But it's not for me. But I would be interested to hear, if you do end up trying it, what you think. Not my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a pass for me.
I'm scared to try it because I think I am a sheep and I think I would kind of like it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not even going to introduce that possibility because I
Okay.
think I won't be able to be like, that's disgusting. I think I would eat it and be like, I see a version of myself that eats this.
Oh,
So I'm not
okay.
even going to try it.
Okay.
I don't trust myself to have a refined palate.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just keep chocolate the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Well, if you've ever shopped at Wegmans, they have at least a couple dozen different flavors of hummus under their own name, like everything bagel, salt and vinegar,
Mm.
and dill pickle. How do you feel about some of these flavors? And what's maybe the wildest one you've seen? Or would you try any of these?
I am far from a Wegmans,
Okay.
tragically, but I have definitely seen this. I'm trying to think of the wildest flavors I've seen. I think if we're talking wildest that I would spend money on, it's salt and vinegar.
Okay.
For sure. I
Yeah.
would try a salt and vinegar. I could think that's a flavor that translates better to other foods, better than other things. I love a pickle, but I like a pickle experience. I don't need a pickle flavor.
Mm.
Salt and vinegar, though, that's not something I'm finding in nature. That is something that they made for chips. And in that way, I'm
Right.
like, why wouldn't that translate to an almond? Why wouldn't that translate to a different nut, a legume, a dip? I would do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, would it be too meta to do a salt and vinegar chip dipped in the salt and vinegar hummus? Like, how do you feel about that?
I have dipped a salt and vinegar chip in regular hummus. Absolutely,
Oh,
I have. I do think there's a world where I'm like, well, I'm kind of not getting the full salt and vinegar experience of just placing that acid directly on your tongue.
mm.
Ooh, that's a good salt and vinegar chip. But I like it. It usually translates pretty well. Adds a little tang to your hummus. It's great.
And nutritionally speaking, hummus is a staple for vegetarians, vegans, gluten-free eaters, and those just trying to eat less meat. It's high in fiber, protein, and iron, and depending how you make it, a pretty heart-healthy option. Today, there are hummus-centric restaurants, hummus festivals, and cookbooks entirely devoted to different ways of spinning the spread. In a way, hummus has transcended its humble origins. But while it's gone global, it's important to remember this is a dish born from the cuisines of people who have been making, sharing, and arguing about it for centuries. So the next time you dip a carrot or rip a piece of warm pita into hummus, take a second to consider what you're eating. You're tasting thousands of years of history, agriculture from the Neolithic era, recipes from medieval Arabic manuscripts, the legacy of the Levant, political symbolism, cultural pride, and, let's be real, a delicious dip. Meredith, what do you think about the backstory of hummus?
I appreciate you sharing all that and doing all the research. It makes sense that it's something that people would fight over the claim to fame and everything. I think that there is a beauty and also it's like the fact that I'm just like a random white girl from Pennsylvania who loves hummus is like there's something scary about the commercialization and the way that like PepsiCo has my ass. That obviously that is sad, but like it is a perk of globalization that it's like I do appreciate that food and it is like a reason that would get me in. There's like a local Palestinian restaurant right around the corner from me. IYAAT, and
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm going there because I love hummus and that's what I want. And I think that is a beauty in someone who has no connection to it, you know.
Yes. Yeah, it can come in the form of supporting the place of origin, that
Mhm.
culture, the restaurant, the maker, whoever it is in that capacity. And you don't have to be. And I think that is what is also really beautiful too about food culture as a whole is how, in your words, a white girl from Pennsylvania can discover hummus and find a huge love and adoration for it. And without having to get a plane ticket somewhere,
Yeah.
you were able to enjoy and discover that food. And now we know a little bit more about it too.
Yes.
And so that definitely helps also. But I think being exposed to foods in that way, whether PepsiCo did it or not, at least we get to have the opportunity to discover them and enjoy them.
Yes. And I that's very cool, and I appreciate learning all about it too. And I hope that dipping salt and vinegar chips is not disgraceful, but a testament to how much I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes rules are meant to be broken a little bit. And, it's like a little flavor never hurt anybody. So I say give it a whirl.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's funny to think about how what is my favorite food in my lifetime in the year 2025 is something that like my mom probably didn't have until she was a full adult, you know? I think that is cool as someone who was not raised with as vibrant a culture as other people. I like that, like something that it's such a privilege that my favorite food can be something with such a history. And I'm glad. I hate that it was PepsiCo, but I am glad that it did reach. I'm glad it reached me eventually.
Yes. Fine for the reachability, if that's a word, point. And now that we know, we can go support our next door neighbor.
Yes.
And all is forgiven.
Yeah. Woo! Yay! Thank you.
You are absolved.
Finally, and that's what I came on here for.
Okay. Well,
solution.
then our work here is done.
Yay!
Well, with fandom behind hummus, it's made its way into pop culture. West Bank Story from 2005 is an Oscar-winning short film, Best Live Action, 2006, which is a musical parody of West Side Story set between competing falafel restaurants, Hummus Hut and Kosher King. It uses hummus as a comedic and cultural symbol in a political context. In 2008, Adam Sandler's comedy movie, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, hummus is a running gag. Zohan toothbrushes with hummus, his dad stirs it into coffee, and a conflict is resolved with a huge vat of hummus. Hummus the movie came out in 2015. This documentary follows 3 Middle Eastern hummus makers, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, and explores how hummus bridges cultural, religious, and political divides. On January 22nd, 2023, Andre Ortolf from Bavaria, Germany, set the record for the most hummus eaten in 1 minute.
Oh.
I'm bringing you in, Meredith, to play the guessing game again. Can you guess how many grams or ounces, whatever you prefer, he ate in 1 minute?
I'm really thinking about it because I'm like, hummus can go down like a smoothie. That is something like you can kind of drink. You don't have
Could
to
you? Okay.
You don't have to chew
Feels
a
like
lot of
thick smoothie. Okay.
in terms of like eating contests, you know,
Sure,
like how they
sure.
you know
Versus
the
a hot dog, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The way that hummus would slide down the gullet is foul.
Much easier. Yes, you're right.
1 minute. I'm picturing 500 grams.
500 grams. Okay, again, Price is Right rules. You win. You're crushing it. It's a little bit more than that, though. If we're doing grams, it's 726 grams, which is 25.6 ounces. So that's a bit over a pound and a half of hummus in a minute.
In 60 seconds.
Yep.
God.
Start the clock. Yep. In a 2024 interview with IMDb, Hey Girl, Ryan Gosling shared his best hummus cooking tip and said that he learned that if you put ice in your hummus while you're blending it instead of water, it gets a lot creamier. International Hummus Day is marked annually on May 13th. Have you been celebrating?
Every single day. But I guarantee you I did eat hummus on that day.
Okay. Yes. You're right. Okay. So unintentionally, yes, you have been celebrating. Yes. Now, maybe even knowing that, you can mark your calendar and do a little dance. I'm not sure how one celebrates the occasion other than eating it. That is up to you. But
beautiful.
Yeah. Are there any other pop culture moments that you can think of for hummus, or any final words you have about your favorite food?
I think my final words would be, as someone who is neither Muslim or Jewish, I'm probably the foremost authority on hummus. I think I'm trying to spin everything and frame it as there is something beautiful that I can be so identity-wise removed from this long, beautiful, fraught history of hummus and still have such a personal connection to it. But yeah, I think there's more educating I have to do. I think it's really cool that I could go onto a show like this and I just off the top of my head said hummus because I have a very simple, pure love for it and know that there's so much history and so much more to learn about it, as there probably is with every food and what this show's about. I think that's really cool.
Hell yeah. Well, Meredith, thank you so much for sharing your love of hummus and helping me to tell its story.
I'm really glad that I could be a blank slate vehicle for this story with no personal ties to it at all.
None are required, and you nailed it.
Yay!
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.